Hello, my beautiful anomalies, and welcome back. I'm Astraea, your lovely host. The incident today will leave your ears ringing. I'll dub this incident No More Cowbell. I'm looking at you, Christopher Walken, but allow the evidence to speak for itself. Let's get into it. This incident isn't the first of its kind, but in this particular case, it affected a woman very close to this incident. Meet Judy Jenkins, a 32-year-old crime scene investigator. At the time, she lived in New York, but she was from a small town in New Jersey. Her mother and father, Judith and Victor, still live in that small town, as well as her only brother, Vic. Yes, she was named after her mother and her brother after her father. Anyway, she had done dozens of crime scene investigations, but none of them hit her as hard or as close to home as this one. She was called on that fateful night of August 21st, 2022. When she got the call to go to her hometown, her heart sunk. The victims were Mr. and Mrs. Frederick and their two children, Meryl and Ben. She had known Mr. and Mrs. Frederick her whole life. They were basically her own grandparents growing up. Her immediate family was very estranged despite the rest of the community being so close-knit. Her parents weren't the best at raising her and her brother Vic, so she took comfort in the fact that Mr. and Mrs. Frederick were so kind and loving. In coming from a small town myself, I know how important community can be and how it should be. Everyone helps everyone, and coming together is really important, whether it's for town events or the unfortunate tragedy. So, getting the news of this incident really hit home for Judy. Arriving at the scene was very unnerving for her. Seeing all the police lights at the small barn made her stomach just drop. She stepped out of her vehicle and took note of the paramedics, cops, and detectives surrounding the barn. Their first deputy to arrive on scene, she learned, was leaning next to the barn, dry heaving as she stepped around the front of the barn. At first glance, the barn seemed to be as normal as she had remembered growing up. Memories of her and her brother romping around when they were younger flashed through her head before she stepped foot into the barn where all the commotion was happening. Those memories then shattered at the sight of the massacre that had happened that night. Mr. Frederick was lying in a pool of his own blood, a large hammer in one hand and a rusty old cowbell in the other. Detective Harold was standing off to the side reading through a diary he had found, trying to collect as much evidence as possible, she figured, as she walked up to him. The old man was raving mad, it seems, and killed the entire family. She got more information from him, noting that Mrs. Frederick was in the kitchen, legend. Their kids were visiting for the weekend, Meryl and Ben, as aforementioned, both murdered in the guest room beds upstairs. Mr. Frederick was absolutely in no way violent. I would certainly be all out of sorts and just all around disbelieving of the facts when hearing the news of someone I know murdering someone else, especially being that close to both the victims and the perp. Like, there has to be some sort of explanation of it. And all through growing up, he's been the voice of reason. He never laid a hand on Judy, Vic, or either one of their children, even when they did something extremely bad. So hearing that was a quick punch to the gut. The detective handed over the diary, and Judy had begun to read. Entries were, at best, delusional. Crazy rantings about being stalked, seeing things that weren't there, hearing a ringing sound constantly. Can't sleep, no reflective surfaces. There was certainly something that happened to Mr. Frederick to make him do and say all of these things. She slid the diary into an evidence bag and proceeded to the body. Judy tended to be the careful one when surveying a crime scene, but just wasn't careful enough. When her boot caught the side of the bell, kicked it out of Mr. Frederick's hand, it made a ring. The sound just reverberated around in her head more than a normal bell should. Just like I hope you hit that noti bell and like, share, subscribe while you're down there. You want to do it. Okay. Judy's breathing increased as her heartbeat climbed, but seemed to be the start of a panic attack. She's had various panic attacks throughout her life, but this one seemed to be different. This wasn't just a normal panic attack. Judy's vision started to blur as the ringing in her head seemed to get louder and louder. Next, she knew she was in the hospital. Detective Harold was sitting next to her bedside. She had asked what happened back there, not recalling what happened after she passed out. The detective says she kept repeating, "Don't touch the bell. Don't let anyone touch the bell," over and over until she fainted. After a quick check over from the doctor, she was sent back home for rest and recover for a few days before being able to return back to work, chalking it up to stress and the impact of how much this case hit home. Little did she know she was never going back to work. After arriving back at her home, she felt the need to shower, getting the grime of the day washed off and hopefully to calm her nerves. She still felt very off and just all over uneasy from the events. After her shower, she felt a little better, but still very wary of her surroundings. It almost felt like she was being watched. She then wiped off the steam that had fogged up her bathroom mirror and was met with another set of eyes that weren't hers from behind her. A tall, skin and bones type humanoid figure stood right behind her. A small, terrified scream escaped her lips as she whipped herself around to face the creature. And as soon as she did, that figure began to run away, disappearing into nothing. Once again, trying to convince herself that what she saw, or what she thought she saw, was just a trick of the imagination. Major stress brain. Let me know down in the comments what you do to de-stress. My go-to is video games, tea, coffee, something warm. But anyway, back to the case. Judy then decided she needed sleep. Sleep is most essential when it comes to anything, really. Sickness, stress, what have you. She laid in bed, staring at the ceiling for a while, but that feeling in the back of her mind never truly left. The feeling of being watched, not being entirely alone, even though she did, in fact, live alone. No pets, no significant other, and in her line of work, she didn't have the time for emotional availability to even think about taking care of a pet or having a family. Her eyes began to shut, but her mind was suddenly flooded with thoughts of paranoia. Did I leave the closet door open? Gangly fingers then found her mouth and nose, smothering her. Her eyes shot open and is now staring once again at the same face she saw in the bathroom mirror. She can't move, she can't make a sound. She suddenly then stepped straight up into full awakeness, and the creature was gone. All the stress had made sleep paralysis a thing again. She had experienced this before, so she knew in her conscious mind that this is what it was. And have any of you had sleep paralysis happen to you or someone you know? Let us know down in the comments. Her days then go by in a blur, not being able to sleep, relying solely on energy drinks, coffee, really anything that would keep her awake. Because if she did drift off to sleep, the creature would attack again. Always the same nightmare, night after night. She even went as far as to getting her license to carry permit and kept a gun tucked away under her pillow. She saw the creature everywhere she went. Reflections of car windows, building windows as she walked to work. Even her co-workers had noticed her sleep deprivation. She was downright looking rough, let me tell you. Until one fateful day, she walked down the same road she always did when she went to work. Now, this time, instead of just seeing the reflection, she actually saw the creature. Standing amongst the rest of the people on the street, she began to yell at it, trying to scare it away possibly, but it just stands there, on the opposite side of the street. That damned cowbell, the ringing impossibly loud in her ears. She just needed to get rid of this ring. She needed it to go away. It's ruining her life. And she started to run across the street, the bell ringing so loudly in her ears. It's the only thing that she heard, despite the faces of the other pedestrians seeming to shout at her with their faces contorted in a mixture of panic and concern. The creature just grins, its sharp teeth like needles as it raises its large hand to wave ever so slightly. And that's when she realized it wasn't a bell she was hearing. It was a semi. She turned just in the nick of time to see the monstrous truck, but not quick enough to get out of the way. That old rusty cowbell is now known as SCP-513, with its counterpart SCP-513-1 being the creature in question that the bell ringing summons, resulting in inevitable death by anyone who hears it. And according to the Foundation on the Hunter's Lodge, we have the bell in containment. and there will be no more cowbell. Again, looking at you, Christopher Walken. Since the scene was in a very public area, the investigation was very cut and dry. Judy had a mental breakdown and walked right into the traffic in front of an oncoming semi. The Foundation didn't have much to do other than gather the cowbell from police evidence with the utmost care, and I will explain here soon what that entails. Just bear with me there. The site location has been redacted from our records, unfortunately, so we really don't know where it is being kept, but we do know it's contained securely in one of the facilities under the Euclid class. It is to be suspended in a 1 cubic meter of gelatin and contained within a soundproofed, climate-controlled cell. The gelatin must be inspected daily for any degradation or loss of integrity. An emergency inspection will be carried out promptly following any earthquake, explosion, or sonic event grade 2 or higher. Personnel performing the inspection are to wear earplugs and active noise-canceling earmuffs at all times while inside the cell. And if the cube shows any sign of degradation, like rips, tears, splits, liquefaction, or mold, SCP-513 is to be immediately removed and suspended in a replacement cube by a team of surgically deafened Class D personnel. Could you imagine having to be deafened surgically just to watch over this thing? A life change that drastic just to do your job. Let me know down in the comments what you had to change your life to do your job, whether it be big or small. Just let us know. Anyways, back to SCP-513. Any sentient beings exposed to SCP-513 are to be monitored by at least 2 security personnel at all times. Under absolutely no circumstances may exposed victims be administered sedatives or allowed to fall unconscious. Any victim who does fall unconscious is to be terminated immediately. I understand why it has to happen, but at the same time, why aren't they given a choice in the matter at that point? I also understand Class D personnel are disposable, so they are also to be terminated at the first signs of mental degradation. All other exposure victims may be terminated per their request. I feel like that's all of it, how all of it should go. Like, if they want to leave this mortal coil, it should be on their request only, but that's just me. Oh, and if possible, SCP-513 is to be apprehended on site, but that has to be... that also has proven to be difficult as well, seeing as he can basically teleport. Physically, SCP-513 is an ordinary rusty cowbell. No marks or engravings are seen on its surface due to the large amount of corrosion. They have tried to remove the rust either chemically or mechanically, but have had no success. It was recovered by an agent whose name has been redacted from records while carrying out containment reestablishment procedure. The clapper was firmly held in place by several strips of duct tape, and a single scrap of paper was found along with the SCP, which I'll read what that says here in a bit. We have more to discuss. Any noise that SCP-513 produces immediately induces strong anxiety in all sentient beings who hear it, regardless of their mental status beforehand. These victims report feelings of being watched by an unseen being and have elevated heart rates and blood pressure. About an hour after exposure, these victims begin to catch glimpses of SCP-513-1, opening doors, walking past mirrors, turning their heads, or performing any other action that results in a sudden change of visual perception. Once the entity is sighted, however, it has been reported to turn away and run out of view before disappearing, with no traces left behind. The Foundation has questioned bystanders, but SCP-513-1 is invisible to those who have not been exposed to SCP-513. These sightings reoccur every 14 to 237 minutes. These feelings of being watched cause extreme sleep deprivation, as victims are frequently disturbed by SCP-513-1's presence in their quarters. Those who are able to fall asleep before its appearance report being physically assaulted by it. When the victim wakes up, however, SCP-513-1 flees per the usual. Naturally, with sleep deprivation and mental stress, it causes paranoia, aggression, hypervigilance, and depression. All test cases but one have ended with the test subject's self-unaliving. And sadly, descriptions of this SCP's appearance are hugely unreliable, as subjects can't give us a complete account of sightings due to their exhaustion, degraded mental health, and disruptive hypervigilance. But every sighting has a few things in common with another. The entity is tall, and it looks like an emaciated humanoid with abnormally large hands. Now, to bring this to a close with what that piece of paper I had mentioned earlier, it read, "You've seen it, now he can hear you. You've touched it, now he can hear you. Never ring it. If you hear it, he can touch you." Guys, this was definitely something. My heart hurts just thinking about it. I hope you found this incident somewhat insightful, and I hope you learned something. Let us know in the comments about your thoughts and feelings on what SCP your legacy in a case file for the next case. But be safe, courteous, and polite out there. Until next time. And remember, stay anomalous.